Welcome to Jets Rewind. This is Marty Shupak from Valley Cottage, New York, and I'm joined by Ray Clifford in Marysville, Ohio. It's a special episode. We're recording this Sunday morning, June 27th, 2021. It's about 10:15. Ray, how you doing?
Doing good. Enjoying a good weekend for the Jets so far.
So far, it's been a good weekend. I was a little nervous, and just so the fans know, Ralph Schrager is on a well-deserved vacation somewhere up in Maine. He refused to disclose his whereabouts, which is fine with me, but he will be returning in a couple of weeks. Ray, right off the bat, the Jets signed Morgan Moses, and the fans may not know I was a nervous wreck for like 7 days. I think you got the brunt of my nervousness. What's your reaction right away, and how does this put the Jets' offensive line?
Well, for me personally, that took away all my concerns that I had, you know, during free agency and the draft. I want to thank the Washington football team for solidifying our offensive line. I don't know, it was kind of a shock to everyone that he got cut, and it was, turned out to be a blessing for us. That's the one more guy I was hoping for. And not that Fant might not have panned out, but this guy sounds like he's uh, more what we needed. And we'll see what they do with Fant, whether he'll end up being, a depth guy or whether they're going to try and trade him. I don't know, but I'm just thrilled as far as that changes to me everything for our offense. It solidifies the line, and we go from there. I think that was nothing but a bounty for the Jets.
Right. And Ray, were you surprised at all that it's only 1 year?
A little bit. I'm thinking that I'm thinking that's one of those sign him, and unless he's a disaster, that they're gonna try and negotiate something longer term. I don't think they want to let him go to, if he pans out, I'd hate to see him, then go right to free agency. So I'm thinking that unless he's not what what they're hoping he'll be, I would imagine they're going to try and, this was you might call it a bridge contract. Get him, on the field and on the team, and work on a longer term deal and extend him possibly during the season. But, who knows? Maybe they just want to see what he can do.
Do you think, Ray, that the trend right now, and I'm even including Jamison Crowder, is that they don't mind 1 year contracts, knowing that the cap, because of the COVID, was not that high, but in 2022, it's going to jump a lot. So a lot of these guys are betting on themselves. Do you think that comes into play as far as these guys signing 1 year contracts?
Um, I think it comes into play more for the player than the team, because if the cap does jump, obviously so will salaries. And so I think more players are willing to do the 1 or 2 year deal type of thing. And unless you're 100% sure it's somebody you want around that, longer term, it's good for the teams too. Because if you're doing a 1 or 2 year deal with somebody, yeah, if they pan out, you might, end up paying through the nose in the end. But, with the way free agents are, and may or may not pan out, look at Tremaine Johnson or somebody like that, who you think you've got this stud, and you pay him a bunch of money, and then you went, boy, a 1 year deal would have been good with that guy. Or,
Right. Yeah.
you're this year,
And just for the fans, my feeling, and just from what I hear around, I don't think that you're going to see Morgan Moses being moved to guard. I don't think you're going to see uh, Fent Fant being moved to guard. I think Fant is going to be the swing tackle. And with the situation with Mackay Becton, this could come at a better time. So I think to move on, the one thing, and we'll do the depth chart right now. Let's start with the offensive line, Ray, because there's something there that I find so fascinating. The right guard, I think, is just what's going to happen. We'll take our shots, but quickly going through and tell me if you disagree. Connor McGovern starting center, Elijah Vera Tucker left guard, Mekhi Becton left tackle, um, Morgan Moses right tackle. Now the right guard, Ray, um, you have, I think, the candidates: Greg Van Routen. You have Alex Lewis, who played left guard, and then you have this guy Dan Feeney. Unless there's some sort of trade or some crazy signing that we don't know about, I think it's among those three. What's your feeling, and who do you think is going to be starting at right guard?
Well, right now it looks like actually we have Alex Lewis at left guard and Dan Feeney and Greg Van Roten and actually Connor McDermott and Tristan Hodge or Hogue are the right guards on the depth chart right now. But
By the way, Ray, I just want to say, I don't want Connor McDermott to be a Jet next year. I think the guy's terrible.
well,
I think they might have extended him, but this guy, he's horrific, especially when you have a rookie quarterback. I just hope he's not on the roster. But I'm sorry. Go ahead, Ray.
well, yeah, but when you get into backups, that's always going to be the chance you're taking. I mean, if you're bringing somebody in as a backup who's not a starter regular or has been around a long time, he's there for depth. And so I'm not sure that we're going to get anything necessarily better. I'm hoping that Dan Feeney guy turns into a solid backup and can play more than one position. The one thing to keep in mind is all this is just very early. I mean, we aren't even in training camp yet. So, these aren't even, these may not even be the depth positions after, 1 or 2 days at camp. I mean, some of these names aren't even going to be around. So it's hard to really get too deep into it. But right now, I think, with Moses, Van Roten, McGovern, Tucker, and Becton, I think we've got a fairly solid line with Adoga. He's able to come in at tackle if need be. Fant will be able to come in at tackle if need be. I'm hoping the Feeney guy pans out, but the Chargers line wasn't all that great last year either. So that was our one big free agent lineman signing.
They were horrible. They were
solid.
They were awful. Feeney was awful.
So I don't know anything about Jimmy Murray, the backup center, and that position I'd like to see somebody that that I know as a backup, as depth, somebody who's got some experience. But again, it's early. I mean, all these backups could change by opening day because things change during training camp so much.
Let's have some fun though. Let's see. Let's try to pick the right guard. I'll throw in another name. So again, right now we have Greg Van Routen, Dan Feeney, Alex Lewis, and I'll throw in Cameron Clark. I'll start. I'll tell you who I think is going to start. I couldn't stand him last year. I don't know what happened. Towards the end of the year, there was some internal strife going on between him and Adam Gase. But I'm going to say Alex Lewis is going to start. And my reasons being is he's one of the toughest guys on the team. I don't want to say he's highly disciplined, but I think he'll be more disciplined with this coach. And the fact that they gave him a 1-year contract, he's betting on himself.
Mm-hmm.
So just like Morgan Moses has that 1-year contract, just like Jamison Crowder has a 1-year contract, I'm going to go with a surprise for a guy I couldn't stand in 2020, but I'm going to say Alex Lewis is the starting right guard. And as far as Greg Van Routen, I just got to tell you too, again, and I've said it over and over, whenever the Jets had like a 3rd and 1, it just seemed like the defensive player was going right through Greg Van Routen. I don't care what his PFF rating is. In the clutch, I thought the guy was horrific. So my pick is Alex Lewis. Go ahead, Ray. Make a pick. We're not going to throw you in jail.
Yeah, I'm not a stats guy. So when I'm not I, I think analytics are good to a point, but I go by the eye test. And like you say with Van Routen, sometimes he just was way off the mark on in big plays. And I still remember, I think it was the Rams where he missed one down by the goal line badly. But besides that, I'd like to think they're bringing in or they're keeping Lewis around for that reason. But right now, I think it's going to stay with Van Roten. I think the thing is, this is a whole different blocking scheme they're coming in with. So I don't know if maybe one of the backups might fit that kind of blocking scheme better. So obviously, training camp's going to change everything. But I'm going to stay with Van Roten at this point. I think he's got the more experience. I don't know if he's got more upside, but he seems to be a guy with a veteran guy who's been there before. And the other guys, with the exception of Adoga, who I think they've got him pegged more as a tackle than a guard. I can't imagine Lewis starting over Van Roten, at least starting out.
Right. You're probably going to be right. I was taking a long shot.
Right.
As everyone knows, Greg Van Routen is from Long Island. He's the Jets player rep for the union, and apparently he's fairly popular with the team. Let's just move to wide receiver, Ray. Have a little more fun.
Yep.
Give me your 3 starters, okay? And I'll give you mine.
Based on the mini camp.
Well, based on the mini camp, like we said, Elijah Moore's in the Hall of Fame.
Elijah Moore's in the Hall of Fame, and Keelan Cole's going to be a perennial Pro Bowl.
Right.
But I think, unless he steps up, I think Mims will be a backup starting out. And I think we're going to I think we'll see Keelan Cole, Corey Davis,
right,
and then Crowder starting out. Elijah Moore, though, it won't surprise me if Elijah Moore gets a lot of time. But I think, as far as depth chart goes, I think it's going to be Crowder. I think the only surprise to me is going to be that I think Mims will be in the back seat in the beginning, and he'll have to kind of show something to get into the crack the first unit.
You know what? I'm going to go the other way. I'm going to say that it's just what's on the Jets Rewind depth chart. I'm going to say Corey Davis, and I think they're going to start Denzel Mims.
Okay.
And just right, after that, I don't know if it was 1 or 2 podcasts ago when Ralph said, you got to look at the highlights of Denzel Mims, which isn't huge because he didn't play a lot. But I went back and I did. And you just see the athleticism of this guy.
I like it. Cole, though, if Keelan Cole continues in training camp to play the way he did in the mini camp, though, I think they're going to have trouble keeping him off the field, too. So I think that's kind of a toss-up at this point.
Okay. And then the other one, I think Jamison Crowder will start, though I think you're going to see a lot of times on third down plays, Crowder and Elijah Moore in there, and they're going to move Elijah Moore in motion, maybe for a jet sweep or what. So, listen, just like we wrote in the article, that's, by the way, we wrote an article and we'll get to it in a minute. It's up on Jets Rewind about the signing of Morgan Moses and how in the past agents and players have used the Jets as leverage to get more money from different teams, and we feel that's changing, but we'll get to that in a minute. So I think that it's like we wrote, Ray, it's a good problem to have that they have all these receivers, which is something that we've never been, through before. Quickly, Zach Wilson will be the starting quarterback. How about running back? Who do you think is going to start?
I think that's a really interesting one because honestly, and we only list 4 on our depth chart because we only go 4 deep right now. And as we said in the last podcast, we think the odd man out will be Josh Adams. But boy, I tell you what, I could see all of those guys making the team, but they won't. They aren't going to keep 5. But I wouldn't be surprised if any of them are there. But I think they'll keep Tevin Coleman just because of his experience with the offense and stuff.
Ray, you know what? They might keep 5
They might,
just because there's 17 games
right?
and the Jets want to run the ball, or at least start out running the ball. So I think there's a very, very minor outside shot that they do keep 5, which is really unbelievable if they do. But go ahead.
It is, but I wouldn't be upset if they did. I just wonder who, what other position are you going to downgrade to get down to the number? I don't, I'm a little not sure how the rosters are working this year with the extra game, and are they going to? I think they're allowing more on the practice squad, aren't they? And something like that. There's more players that they can keep
Right.
around in one way or another.
Yeah.
I think starting out, at least in training camp, Tevin Coleman's going to be the starter, I think, just because of his knowledge of the offense. To me, and I think that's going to take away from Ty Johnson more than Michael Carter, because I think Michael Carter is going to be a real change of pace guy who can carry the ball, catch it out of the backfield, do a lot of different things. Michael Pirine, I'm not sure yet what his role will be with this offense, because I think, even though I think Josh Adams would be the odd man out, it seems to me that Michael Pirine has the least defined position, what he'll do. So starting out, though, I think Tevin Coleman, at least starting out, is going to be just because of his knowledge of the offense. I'd like to see Ty Johnson, though, if he can pick it up. I'd like to see if he can, build off of last year. I liked him a lot.
Let me ask you one question, then we'll just do the tight ends and we'll move on to something else on our agenda. Okay, so you think Tevin Coleman on November 1st, assuming there's no injuries for running backs, and assuming, let's say, by some miracle, they kept 5 on the roster. November 1st, who do you think is the starting running back?
I think if Tevin Coleman's healthy and shows anything like he did before, I think it'll be Tevin Coleman.
I think it's Michael Carter. I mean, I've reviewed.
Well, I mean, are you talking just having one running back in the backfield at the time? I'm talking the main one. I think it'd be Tevin Coleman, but as long as they got 2 backs back there, which they usually will, the other one I could see being Carter, because I think, like I said, I think Tevin Coleman's going to take away from Ty Johnson.
Let's say, and we know it's going to be by committee, and there's no featured back, but some backs are going to get more reps than others. I think Michael Carter is going to move in. I mean, I've reviewed so much video of this guy. I think this guy is tremendous.
Yeah, he might be the steal of the draft for us, really.
Yeah. All right. Tight end, I'm going to go with Tyler Croft. Okay. Even though Chris Herndon is at that tight end conference, that's all these tight ends got together. It was put together by Kelsey or someone. So he's trying to better himself. Who do you think is going to be the starting tight end?
Well, I'm going to go Herndon because he has the more upside. He more fits, I think, the kind of offense they want to run. I think it'll be Herndon, but if he doesn't, if he doesn't stand out, I mean, I think Croft was more in for somebody for blocking and like red zone, maybe kind of stuff where he's blocking or can sneak on out for a catch. But Herndon's a more dynamic one. I can't imagine they won't go with Herndon.
Remember when Croft was on the Bengals, he had I think 42 receptions one year. So he does have a.
Yeah, he can catch the ball. He's not strictly a blocker.
All right. Ray, let's get right to this article, great article that we both put up. And the title of it is, it's right on Jets Rewind, the New York Jets won't be leveraged for the NFL anymore. And the essence, Ray, that we try to relate to the Jet fans, and there are a lot of Jet fans out there that are younger, is that in the past, the Jets have been used incredibly as leverage between agents and players. So they get an offer from the Jets and they go to either another team negotiating with or the team that they were going to leave. And they're saying the Jets offered me this. can you match it, or what is your best offer? And the Jets, he put up three examples. They lost Antoine Winfield, they lost Anthony Barr, and they lost Kirk Cousins, which is actually our gain, Ray. It wasn't really our loss, but nevertheless, use it. But
my favorite lost free agent we've
right,
ever.
that's right. But in 2004, I mean, they were close to signing Antoine Winfield. He was with the Buffalo Bills by way of Ohio State. So you're a big Buckeye fan. You knew him pretty well.
Oh yeah.
Give us your recollection. I mean, we wrote kind of a summary, but give us your recollection of that whole deal and how he screwed the Jets.
Well, he went to he was drafted by Buffalo, and I loved him at Ohio State. For a little guy, he was always putting his head on the ball. He had a nose for the ball. He was a sure tackler. He was a big hitter for how small he was. So I was, I liked him coming out of Ohio State, and then Buffalo, he looked great. And then word was we were going to get him, and I was excited. I couldn't wait. Then he ended up on Minnesota in this weird. He was supposed to sign with us, and next thing I know, so I read an article shortly after it happened, and my understanding was that the Jets tried to do him a favor, and because contracts have so much fine print and wording that's got to be just right, that it takes, even a simple contract can take hours to draw up because they go over it, they tweak things, whatever. And so it was getting late in the night, and the Jets told him, man, just you can go back to the hotel and we'll pick you up in the morning. You can come up, no need to just sit here, all this. And at some point after he left, either his agent or he got a call from the Vikings asking if he'd signed with the Jets yet. And since he said no, they upped their offer by $500,000, and he took off. I don't know if it was on a private jet or if
private jet. They sent the private jet.
Yeah, went and got him, and in the middle of the night. And as I said, two things about it really just pissed me off, which was one, he did it and didn't tell him. So they didn't find out he left till in the morning. But the other was that he didn't just say, hey, they're offering me this. You want to match it or anything? He just hopped on a plane and headed out of town. And, kind of like the Colts leaving Baltimore, just middle of the night, just take off and no guts, no guts. And then later he said, they interviewed him. He said, well, the Jets just didn't seem to have their stuff together, as it was his excuse for doing it. And I'm like, that was, to me, it was just gutless. It just made me hate the guy ever since.
And the other story that came out was supposedly his wife wasn't crazy about living in the New York, New Jersey area. But whatever it is, we both put in the article, he left the Jets standing naked at the altar. And of course, Winfield ended up making the Pro Bowl in 2008, 2009, 2010. And if you jump ahead now, like to March 2019, it was Anthony Barr, again, of the Vikings. And Ray, why don't you describe this one, okay?
Well, with Barr, he was
linebacker.
He was a linebacker. He had 4 good years with the Vikings, so we went after him. He actually, I don't know why, he was having second thoughts, and he just changed his mind, and he went back to the Vikings. And he went back actually for less than we were going to sign him for, if I remember correctly.
Right. The difference was supposedly the Jets were offering $15 million a year, and he ended up signing for $13.5 million a year to stay with the Vikings.
And so it looked like we got left at the altar again. Now that one, I'm not as if somebody doesn't want to be there, I'm not as upset about that one. And he was kind of, I won't say he was upfront about it, but he just said, I'm having second thoughts, and he went. He didn't do it like in the middle of the night and sneaking out. And in reality, then I was kind of looking at his stats with Pro Football Focus, and they had done an article saying on the worst contracts on pretty much every team. They did an article, and they've consider his the worst contract on Minnesota right now. And he even reworked it after last year. I think he got injured last year. He only played in, I think, 2 games. And so, he may ended up doing us a favor in the long run. If he didn't pan out, it would have been $15 million against the cap that we didn't end up having to worry about.
Yeah. All right, so these are two players that use the Jets as leverage to get more money from other teams. And we'll quickly talk about your favorite, Kirk Cousins. He ended up agreeing to a 3-year, $84 million guaranteed contract with the Vikings. And the Jets had offered him 90 million guaranteed over 3 years. And what we put in the article, what we said, which was, I think this was classless, Ray, where he was filming the whole process of the free agency, and they showed on the Vikings website, which I never saw, that he used the Jets' $90 million offer to up the Vikings offer to 84 million. Ray, I think we're both in agreement that that was sometimes the best deals are the deals that never get done, and we were both thrilled with that.
Oh, I to this day, I mean, I was just like, please sign with the, that was my worst fear, was we were going to pay that guy $30 million a year or whatever it was yearly. And I was like, we are not in any position to make a run with that guy. We didn't have the team around him. Similar to, ended up with Sam, and same thing. We didn't put anything around Sam either, but at a far less cost, we ended up probably where we'd be right now anyway. I don't think, we'd have been any better off with Gase and Cousins than we were with Gase and Sam. I think Minnesota and him, that was one of the few times I'm like, go ahead, use us, just don't sign with us. I didn't care. I was thrilled that he signed with Minnesota.
Right.
So,
Right. And as a sports fan, I mean, I see it. I'm a Yankee fan. I see other teams always having their free agents talk with the Yankees, their agents, just to let them know, get it out there that they're speaking to the New York Yankees. Which brings us now, yeah. By the way, the details of the Morgan Moses deal. It's a 1-year contract, which I was a little surprised about. $3.6 million base salary. He could get a maximum of 5.3 with 80% more of playing time.
Mhm.
He has incentives. Right. I'm surprised they got him for that cheap. Just like I was surprised that they got Crowder. They were able to knock down the salary 50%. Were you surprised at the amount?
Crowder, I was a little surprised, but I think the whole thing with Crowder was part of that, I believe, was guaranteeing they would not franchise him, so he's a free agent completely next year. And like I said, the cap probably will start to go up, so he'll probably do better money-wise in the long run. I think with Moses, I still am not sure they aren't thinking about, working out a longer term deal. I don't know, or maybe they're just not sure about him either. It's kind of still baffling why Washington let him go. So I'm not sure there isn't something there that has got teams a little nervous about him, because, usually you aren't getting rid of a tackle.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
Is there anything we should be concerned about, that he's going to be making less money as a starter than George Fant as a backup?
I would say either they're going to maybe try and renegotiate Fant, or maybe trade him. I don't think they'll cut him. I think they'll keep him for depth, that if all else fails. But that's why I think there's some more bargaining going on. I think this was just to get him on the team and in here. And I think they're going to try and work out something longer term, because it may, he seems to fit what we need. So why would you just sign him for 1 year unless that's all he wanted to do? And maybe that's it. Hey, as a quick side note to the Jets being used by free agents, you could actually, I believe, go back as far as Reggie White. And it seemed like he kind of used the Jets to get more, when he got more from Green Bay, and then said that God told him to go to Green Bay.
I remember that. I remember
But
that.
I think it was
God was wearing the wrong color green, obviously, or different green.
But
Right.
I can remember all the reports that he was going to sign with the Jets, and I think that was all smoke and mirrors. I don't think he ever intended to come to the Jets.
Ray, this is the segment of the show I'm going to call "Gun to Your Head" moment. I got two for you, even though Ralph's not here. You ready?
Yep.
Gun to your head. You have to pick one. Who has a better chance of being a Jet in 2022? Morgan Moses or Jamison Crowder?
Morgan Moses. I think unless Elijah Moore doesn't work out, and even if he does, I'm not sure Crowder would, doesn't have a bit of a bad taste in his mouth about having to renegotiate. So I wouldn't be surprised if he leaves no matter what.
Right. All right. The second and final gun to your head question. And I know it's early, but this is, again, a fun question. Right now, do you think Mekhi Becton gets a 5th-year option from the Jets?
Right now, yes.
I know. I'm just not optimistic. I'm sorry.
Well, I mean,
I hope you're right. I hope I'm wrong,
I
Ray.
hope I am too. But if they do, that means he's on the field basically most of the year and he's looking good.
Yeah, I hope you're right.
Well.
All right, Ray, let's move on. I've read Rich Cimini, the great Jet beat writer for ESPN. He had a great article talking about a few things. Two of the things that stood out to me were that the Jets have 18 days left to sign Marcus Maye, or they'll pay him the $10.6 million franchise tag. Now, this could be a big test for Joe Douglas because if you look, really, the homegrown talent that he hasn't signed, he's let get away. I'm not saying it's been good or bad, but let's just be honest. Jamal Adams, Leonard Williams, Robbie Anderson, and Sam Darnold. So, as you know, like it's not like years ago when a player plays for a team forever. But do you think this is a big test for Joe Douglas? And what do you think he's going to end up signing a contract with the Jets?
I think they're going to try and sign him. Now, I like Marcus Maye, but I wouldn't put him like. Now, granted, Josh, not Jamal Adams. I keep saying Josh. Jamal Adams kind of fit Greg Williams' system. Now, whether he fit this system, I don't know, because I don't know if they need a safety who's up on the line doing things, or if they need one who more covers with this defense. But I'm not sure Marcus Maye's in that category. So if he's wanting top dollar, they're not going to get him signed. They may end up with the franchise tag option would be better.
A comparative player in your area, Cleveland Browns in March signed the safety, John Johnson, 3 years, $33.75 million, which comes out to $11.25 million a year. Do you think that's a realistic and a fair price? And would you be happy with that price to get Marcus Maye back in the Jets uniform?
I think that's higher than they're going to be willing to spend. But now, when you say that, isn't some of that like bonus guaranteed?
Yeah, but I'm just talking about the
doesn't amount to 11 a year.
Just the average is 11.25.
Right.
Again, the bonus is everything for all these NFL contracts,
and that's what they all pay attention to. They want to know how much money they're guaranteed to get. They don't care about
right?
They don't care that the last year might be $50 million because they know they're never.
No. I remember Deion Sanders' last contract. I think it was with the Redskins at the time. I mean, it's like the last 2 years were like ridiculous, $75 million. I never saw anything like it. Yeah. Look, I hope they sign him. I like him.
I like him a lot. I hope they do too, but it's got to be at the right number. It's got to be realistic.
It's got to be at the right number. And, I don't know if they could convince him to play on the franchise tag. And if he comes back next year and he wants to be a Jet, there'll be a lot more, as we said at the beginning of the show, there'll be a lot more cap money.
Right.
So in a way, he'd be betting on himself, but we'll see. Cimini doesn't think that if they hands up with the franchise tag, he doesn't think he's going to be a Jets after that, but we'll see. Hey, Ray, it was pointed out, Gary Myers, the former great writer for the Daily News, he got appointed to this 9-member senior committee for the Hall of Fame, where they picked the one player per year. The senior committee picks them.
Right.
Myers is a huge Joe Klecko supporter.
Yes, he is.
Yeah. What they do is the way it's worked, they filter down these candidates to 10, and then on August 24th, they'll vote on those 10. And apparently only one makes it for the next 3 years. So I think this is good news. I mean, you were a big Joe Klecko fan,
Yep.
and it's still a long shot, but having Gary Myers in his corner, I think it's pointing good for Joe Klecko. And I was born just about the same day Joe was. We're almost the same age. So he'll be 68 this year. I know that for a fact. So what's your thoughts on this Joe Klecko and the Gary Myers development?
I'm thrilled. I mean, I've always been a big fan of Klecko. He's just a consummate pro that we had, and he was basically a knee injury slowed him down, or he'd be in there. But even with that, to me, this is the biggest travesty going out there in the Hall of Fame. You can say what you want about all these other guys, and I'm not saying they aren't great, but he's the only one who was stellar at all three defensive positions: end tackle, nose tackle. And the good thing about Myers is, like you said, he's a big fan of Klecko. He believes he should be in there. And if he can get him into the final 10, that would be a step up, even if he doesn't get in this year. Just get him in the final discussion. And I think it'll lead to him getting in eventually, because he doesn't seem to get past round 2 or whatever, however, many cut downs there are. It seems like his name gets mentioned, but then he's quickly dismissed. So Gary Meyer might be the thing to get him into that final group, which will have him talked about a lot more at that.
Right. Hey, Ray, about 10 days ago, we both received a text from Ralph Schrager, our co-host,
Yep.
that you have to watch this 4-part series on the New York Jets website called Jets Flight 2021. I didn't do anything for 2 days, and then I started watching/listening because I do a lot of driving. And I want to tell you, I thought it was tremendous. And then I texted you, and you ended up watching all 4 before I was done. What was your reaction to that?
Well, the nice thing about them are they aren't super long, so they're, you can watch them fairly quickly. They're all about a half hour-ish, give or take a couple minutes, which is a good time where you get a bunch of in-depth info. But the thing I liked is how they went into, and it started before the draft. It led up to the draft and a little bit beyond, but it led up to the draft. And so it went through free agency. I felt a lot better about our free agents after watching that, for one thing. They went through all the guys they signed, and then it went into all the effort and all the planning and all the guys scouting these guys over actually a course of a few years, not just leading up to this draft, and all the stuff that goes into it, and how they go from hundreds of guys and pare it down to, I think, about 100 by draft day. And it's just the amount of research and eyeballs on the field watching guys live, and all this stuff that they do, which even got hampered going into this draft. But all the effort they put in, it's very impressive. And I think if any of the fans watch this 4-part series, they're going to come away feeling like, if nothing else, the Jets did all their due diligence they could do. And I feel way better about this team. Even before we signed Morgan Moses, I felt better about pretty much everybody we've done.
Right.
And I was down on them big time about not getting more linemen, but they really put in the effort for this.
They did a tremendous job, technical wise, and just with the coaches and the assistant coaches and the scouting staff. They went through everything meticulously, why they do certain things, showing film of some of the draft prospects, discussing why the free agents fit into the Robert Saleh LaFleur system. And they just, you come away after watching all 4 episodes just with a very, very positive feeling about the organization. You just feel like, boy, they're really building something good here.
Yeah.
Now, again, we don't want to get ahead of ourselves, Ray, but it just was everything again is trending in the right direction. And like I said in the article, we both said, Ray, at this point, it's June 27th. From now on until when training camp opens is going to seem like forever. I mean, I just can't wait for it to open.
And one other thing about that, sir, the first part goes into the hiring of Robert Saleh. And to me, one of the great things about that was finding out how much he wanted this job. You know, he had interviewed with several teams, but you find out he wanted this one. And so to me, that was just nice to hear that somebody wanted to be on, you know, the Jets coach and was excited about it. And he brings a passion and a energy to the team that I don't think we've had for a while. So hopefully, you know, right now, like you say, everything's trending in the right direction, and hopefully it'll, you know, these picks work out, you know, and the next 2, 3, 4 years, hopefully it's a great ride, because, you know, it seems to be headed that way.
That's right. All right, we're going to wrap this up. For Jets Rewind, for Ray Clifford and Marty Shupak, this has been a special episode. And stay with us. We'll be back on the air shortly. Until next time.